my work has been very interesting that I helped develop the company strategy, but the major strategy I came up with is one is waste elimination by incorporating everybody's talent. That's lean production, but applicable to not just manufacturing but other area. And the other one is the concept of mainly mini company self-management, and there the framework of how to process is to empower them, the people, to bring out their potential. That's the main strategy. And for that to happen, organization has to change from the traditional hierarchical or sometimes autocratic process of I tell you what to do, you just do what I say. That was a traditional model. And I said, the other one is to ask the question, what do you think? And people come up with the idea, I have suggestion. So that's the empowerment. But when they come up with a suggestion, they are put into the position of them being the president of their area of responsibility. So the idea they may come up may have to be verified how to execute and how much it costs and what's the benefit. So the manager's role changes from telling them what to do, but asking what do you think, and people's role changing from tell me what to do to this is what I think. The idea is for people to have their own destiny and develop the skill, and therefore the whole organization can be aligned if the top management, middle management, everybody is concerned about the success of the business and destination, so that they find a way by having this mini company, and banker-employee relationship, customer satisfaction as the key part. I'm not going to go into detail because that's a 500 pages book and another book to talk about waste elimination and all of that. But that idea is very in line to Zen and Shin Buddhism that I've been talking recently. And people may not know what the Zen or Shin Buddhism, but I can explain it, bring in various examples. One of the example may be about Daisetz Suzuki, and he has written many books, but when people come with questions, often he was responding to them, nodding, but when it comes to what his suggestion, he often said he doesn't know. And that's the story from Mihoko Okamura I heard about, and I thought that was interesting. In Nakayama's case, who wrote books about Zen and about creativity, his approach has been think hard as much as you can for 3 days, and if it's not giving the answer, then you call it as a problem. And if you get to the point of no more thinking, eventually you'll find the answer. So he's empowering people to use their brain as much as possible to the point they cannot think. Here's a case of Dharma or Boddhi Dharma. He's known to be the one who brought Zen to China and then into Japan eventually. At one point there was a monk or monk-to-be visiting Boddhi Dharma, saying that I don't know what to do about my life. Please help me. And he cut his elbow to show Dharma, Bodhi Dharma, that is how serious I am to solve the problem, but asking you to help me. And the Dharma said, well, you say that you don't have the answer and you're looking into your mind. Tell me what's in the mind bring your mind to me. And that was the question. And this monk, a monk-to-be, thought by himself what's in his mind and what can be done with it. And after a long search and thinking, he said, he came back to the answer. I couldn't find this mind that is causing the unsettled feeling. And Boddhi Dharma said, now I have solved the problem for you. So it's pointing the person to come up with their own answer, just like Nakayama's case. There's a story of Zen master, I remember, similar to this. And there's a monk visiting this Zen master who is in the temple. He came to the temple, knocked the door, and the guy, the master, came up to the door. And what is their problem, or whatever the discussion they had. And as soon as this Zen monk started to say something about his problem, he shut the door. Later, the next day, he came and the same thing happened. Third day, although I don't know exactly how the sequence happened, but the monk came again. And this time he was too serious, so that he, as soon as the master started to close the door, he put his leg into it so that the door cannot be shut. Still, the master hit the door closed, and therefore the leg get broken, or foot, whatever the case is. At the moment of the pain, this Zen monk got the idea that he was looking for, the answer. There's a case from an English guy, I think his name is Bono, which I remember from 25 years ago. And his famous saying was "po." I have to verify if this is the right word. But on top of yes and no answer to any question, the answer could be "po." And kind of like a Zen-like answer. And I never gone into the depth of the point of his thinking. I think it's called the lateral thinking. The "po" means not the dualistic way of looking at the things of yes or no, but it's almost like not answering, as much as Nakayama's case of thinking 3 days and until the point of mind get empty. The Bono, I think, who is also known about the creative thought, the idea of "po" means the same thing, which is not rushing to come up with the answer and stay quiet. "Po." Not jumping into the answer, but still in your mind. Then the idea may pop up. I'm guessing that's his theory, but I don't know if that is the case. Meditation is a common approach of Zen and Buddhism. So in there is the idea, for example, Sila, Samadhi, Panna. You follow the right conduct and have Samadhi, calm and quiet mind. Eventually you come up with the Panna. I went through Vipassana meditation, practicing this 11 hours a day of meditation, and through the painful process of not figuring out what's going on the 8th day in the afternoon, I came to understanding or awakening moment. It was painful to go through the process, but determined to come up with the answer, I found this awakening. And that's about another story that I talked about, but basically following the idea of Sila Samadhi Panya, or calm and quiet mind. And the same thing can happen. Rinzai is the Zen master, and he's famous of his saying, cuts, which is as if to cut the air or have the people's mind get clear. And that's like the case of the shutting the door, or the temple door that I mentioned before by the master. Give people a strong stimuli. In some case, in Zen temple, when people meditate, they give this kyosaku, which is a stick, and people may ask for the stick because the people are getting lost in their meditation or something, so that they give them this 3 times hitting in the back. And that practice can be abused, but that is the point, the seriousness of how you may go over the hurdle for enlightenment. In case of Myokonin and Shin-Buddhism, and Shin-Buddhism is based upon this idea of Amida Buddha, Bo, to say that Amida would save your life, be happy, come to the Pure Land, like a heaven. So it's kind of like a Christian story. You have faith for Amida Buddha. And they use this Namami Dabutsu as like anchoring, if I were to say it, to trigger your vow. You're letting go yourself to Amida to save the person. So one of the famous sayings for that Myokonin is that when you have a problem, ask Amida for help. So I just read one story yesterday reminding me of this, one of the Myokonin. I think his name was Genza, but I'm not sure. So whenever he was actually doing some work, when he was doing some work at the field, people came from far away. This is like maybe hundreds of years ago, that there's this Myokonin who's got, say, enlightened sense of how he's devoting his life with Amida Buddha and influencing so many people. So people come from far away and ask this guy, please help me. And he didn't respond. Second day, he asked, and he didn't respond. And the last day, because this guy has to go back home, he came and asked again. And perhaps this Myokonin said something at the time to tell him, why don't you just ask Amida Buddha? And with that, this person coming far away for instruction for what to do got the answer. So there's lots of various examples here. And in Buddhism, there are more about some different passages to take. And I'm not going to go into it, but just for a little bit, there are 3 vehicles, they call it, that you can go through. One is 8 Noble Paths by Shomon. I don't know Shomon in English. For those who listen to the teaching and practice. So the case of Vipassana, the meditation, may fall into that process of 8 Noble Paths, 8 broken into 3 segments of Sila Samadhi Panya. The second one is the Bodhisattva's way, and that has 6 paramitas. The 6 paramita is not so much for those to use the mind and dig into it, but rather to practice certain action. And you can look into what are those 6 paramitas. And I'd start from donating your time and money for others, helping others. That's the kind of a process. And the last one is Engaku, which is for people who may get understanding suddenly. And the Buddha is known to be one of them. And the process there is called the dependent origination of looking through all the karma beginning of the human development, starting from ignorance to getting to having a life and getting old, get sick, die, and then what happens. So there's a series of events to look over, and by going through that, but unable to go any solution, it may give you a solution out of nowhere, so to speak. Anyway, those are the 3 vehicles, but each of them go through the moment when you face the difficulty not having the answer. What I'm saying is that all these processes have something in common. When you don't have the solution, if I say it simply, keep the will to go through, but don't jump into using the mind too much. Or if you use the mind, you use it until you cannot go any farther. That's one of the approach that some of those guys has gone through. But the point is, you get to the point of going nowhere, and that's when the door opens. So I was triggered by looking at this mail to me about the setting of the CEO going through, but I didn't have the answer. And everyone may need to, at certain point in life, when you face a problem you cannot solve, you may get any of those examples that might fit to your situation. There's a limit in what you can do in your mind. Of course, you can find some solution in your mind space, but as I explained in some of those examples, if you exhaust your search, then you get to the point of the final barrier. And that's when the door could open. So the spiritual path or religious path may not be so simple, but there are various ways. And we may need to study, practice, do whatever, as much as life would give you difficult problems, from the simple, easy one to the more difficult one. But that is related to the construct of who you are. In my view, I mentioned about 2 universes, the constraint of the mind, and you need to break through that. And that moment may happen if you dedicate, be sincere, truthful. You get to that state of no mind, empty mind. And as I have shared in various videos, those are the events and the cases where the wisdom may pop up, or this big awakening that can take place. Thank you.